Joining me now, Democrat James Walkinshaw, Republican Dr. Rich McCormick. Good to see you both. Thank you for being with me, gentlemen.
Good to be with you.
All right. Stipulation. Because you need to pass a law to make the president or any president stop doing what they're doing, and he would veto that law, and you would need to override it. I get that the War Powers Resolution is functionally a protest vote. But that said, Doc, I'll start with you. The president said, we have gone to war with Iran. It is the first time in modern history that a president has unilaterally announced a declaration of war. How is that not your job?
Actually, we had a testimony today that we weren't at war from the Trump administration, too. So I think it's verbiage in that case. I think we've been at war with Iran for almost 50 years. That's my personal opinion. I've had buddies of mine that I played rugby with in the Marine Corps who were blown out of windows in Beirut, sponsored by Iran. I've had Georgians in last year killed by Iranian-produced drones. This is personal to me. I've seen hundreds of Americans killed over years. We've been attacked over 40 times independently by multiple groups supported by this evil regime. We've been at war with them for a very long time. And meanwhile, I just make the case. I know there's going to be a bit of a battle here of wills. But quite frankly, when Biden and Obama gave them billions of dollars. Biden allowed them admission to a whole bunch more billions of dollars. You know what they spent that money on? Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, drones, all kind of weaponry that would disrupt the Middle East and the world peace order. I'm telling you, this has been the worst, most offensive Tehran regime we've ever seen, and the most problematic world government we have.
Well, Doc. We can unpack it, but we are where we are. And to be honest, I think there's plenty of stink on all of it. This was a multi-country consortium that did this deal. It was their money that had been sequestered, right? And there were supposed to be conditions on what they could spend it on. Now, you can say that all sucked, okay? The president, Trump, ended that deal. Said he obliterated their program. And now it recovered so fast in just a few months that we had to attack right now without going to Congress, without explaining to the American people, without having an exit plan, because that's how close they were. So there's plenty of suck to go around here, no?
I get what your point is. But quite frankly, when they fired on American ships, I stated this over a year ago during the Biden administration. I encouraged President Biden to sink their entire Navy. When they killed Americans with their drones, I encouraged Biden to destroy their factories that produce 100 drones per month while we produce 7 anti-drones per month. This is a problem. Look, I'm probably more aggressive than President Trump, quite frankly, because I wouldn't have put up this a long time ago. I've been encouraging both administrations.
But you would be about regime change. You would be about regime change.
I would love to see regime change. I don't know if it's realistic.
Of course, but why else would you get involved? You would never get involved if you didn't think you could, at the end, change the regime. So let me bring you in, Brother Walkinshaw. This is why I wanted you guys to debate it. Not you two, but all of you. Why? Because the regime sucks. Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, here's what hasn't worked. Well, what would work? Well, do we want to remove the regime? Well, no, we can't remove the regime, which is what we're being told right now, even though our government has authorized our intelligence agencies to create an insurrection. And the president said today, I have to be involved in picking the new leader. So I don't know how we're not involved in regime changes. This is why you voted for the resolution, Representative Walkinshaw.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think it's a really important constitutional debate that we should have. And, you know, I didn't support President Bush's war in Iraq, just like President Trump didn't support President Bush's war in Iraq. And there were a lot of lies to get us into that war. But there was a debate. There was a debate in the country. There was a debate in Congress. There was an authorization to move forward with that. And that's what should have happened here if what Rich is saying is true. And a lot of what he said is true about Iran's actions with respect to the U.S. and around the world. We should have had that debate before this war. And look, I know the Trump administration is saying now that it's not a war. They've said over the course of last week that it is a war. If it looks like a war, it smells like a war. We're seeing the images right now. This is a war that's taking place. It should have been debated in Congress. We could have it out. Rich and I could debate it on the floor, take an up or down vote, and the president could move forward if he gets authorization. That's how it should happen.
I mean, look, Rich, again, you know, Everybody here agrees. The regime sucks. Nobody has been trying to ruin the American dream the way they have. Nobody has put everything on it. They're an inorganic, extreme Islamist insurgency that overtook Iran, and the people should get it back. Everybody's with it. The question is, you better know how to get it right, because we all know, nobody better than you, Doc, the blood that has been spilled and forgotten, apparently. Because, can you say with confidence right now, yeah, they know how to get this regime out and make it so that it's not mission creep like the other times? They went from 3 to 4 weeks to now 100 days, they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great, legitimate point. And by the way, I think one of the problems we're facing right now is with the advent of AI and drones and being on the verge of nuclear capabilities. The game's kind of changing. And we're literally seeing warfare evolve faster than we've ever seen. The kill chain is accelerated, where a poor nation can compete with a wealthy nation in a very real time, deliver precision munitions to a precise location and destroy people and take out presidents. This is just a different time in the world. We have to react in different ways. I get it. We've done limited warfare in the past. Every president I know of in my lifetime has attacked a foreign nation. Every one of them. In all of our lifetimes. We've never seen a president who didn't attack a foreign nation. It's just a question of how far do you go? Bosnia, Herzegovina, Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Korea. We didn't have wars declared in any of those. And yet we went to war. Sometimes we go way over. I agree. Mission creep. I don't want to see my sons go to war. I don't want to see my friends die. I hate war. But I'm also very concerned about what a small nuclear-armed Iran with an autocratic theocracy can do to the rest of the world.
I get it. Everybody agrees on what the problem is. It's about the solution. Now, let me ask you about one other thing quickly, fellas. You both voted to release the Epstein files, okay? I totally get it. I'm a little interested in what you guys are going to do about the fact that this government, more than at any other time in my lifetime, has told you guys, we don't care about your law. We're going to violate it. What are you going to do about it? So we'll see what you do there. But what I don't get is that you both voted against the same kind of transparency law for you guys. Help me understand this. I know you say, well, we sent it back to committee, but I just see that as a procedural death sentence. So I start with you, Mr. Walkinshaw. How are you for the Epstein file release, but you don't want that kind of transparency if it can hurt you guys?
Well, the good news, Chris, is I do want that kind of transparency. I serve on the Oversight Committee, and shortly after that vote on the floor, we had a separate vote to subpoena all of the awards and settlements related to sexual harassment for members of Congress in history. And I voted for that, and it passed in a bipartisan way. So that information will be coming out thanks to the Oversight Committee subpoena.
Okay, I get it. But that's not exactly the same thing that we're doing in Epstein, right? They're not just situations, Doc, where they settled. It's who knew, what did people say? And if you want to say it was never corroborated, fine, but you can't hold it back from us on that basis. And then these are people that have high public prominence, not as high as members of Congress, and we want to see it. You're now sending a different message about yourselves, Doc. I heard from you, Walkinshaw. Let me hear from Doc, and then I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
First of all, I think these people have much higher prominence.
Walkinshaw needs your help on this one.
I think they have much higher prominence than we do in Congress, quite frankly. You got celebrities, you got ex-presidents, you got some of the most prestigious people in society. We're the small fish, really, in this Epstein. Most politicians didn't get involved in this unless you were at the highest levels.
No, I'm not talking about Epstein. I'm talking about this bill. I'm talking about this bill that would put the same focus on you cats, and that you don't like. Make it make sense.
Yeah. So when I first started running for Congress, I remember people accusing me of all kinds of crazy things. I mean, insane things. You've been accused of things, right? That you probably would dispute were not true. The question is, do you have a right to any sort of privacy when you're accused of something that's false? Do you let an investigation go on without the public getting involved? Do you want to bias juries? Do you want to have people do things politically? We're coming after it constantly. I don't know of any politician, at least any male politician, who hasn't been accused of something. Now, I'm sure there are people out there like that, but I don't know of any of it. When the first time I got accused, I took it so hard. I literally got palpitations. And I went to the governor. I said,
but then you should have voted against the Epstein law. Then you should have voted against the Epstein law because you're going to do that to a whole bunch of people now. What's the difference?
Actually, that was one of the debates that we had is, does it run its due course? But the Epstein files, and quite frankly, this is the nice thing about going through committee and having it actually vetted by lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a Marine. But lawyers, thinking about what your constitutionality is, thinking about protecting witnesses as well as people who are accused against. There is a due process of our law. And I think we have to be very careful how we approach this so that people aren't maligned without some sort of due process.
Congressman Walkinshaw, I'll give you the last word on this. I'm still not sold. It feels hypocritical to me. It feels like the rule for thee, but not for me.
Yeah. I've been very involved in the Epstein file issue on the Oversight Committee. And one of the things we've been careful to do is be guided by the survivors and talking to them every step of the way. And we didn't start pushing to release the files until the survivors asked us to, and we're comfortable with it, because a lot of survivors have concerns, unfortunately now validated, that their information could be revealed in those files being released. So I think with respect to this issue of members of Congress and allegations and awards and settlements related to sexual harassment, we need to sit down and talk to the survivors, those who have been victimized in those instances, and talk through how they want that information released and made public. And I think the subpoena that the Oversight Committee passed, that I voted for, so that all of those awards and settlements will be released, is a first step. And if survivors ask us to, we can push to release additional information after that.
Get ready to release it. Representative Walkinshaw, thank you very much. Representative McCormick, I appreciate you both coming here and making the case, and I look forward to seeing you both again. Thank you, gentlemen.